Okay, so now we are going to be talking about expectations in the classroom. So we're going to start in the column that says evidence. And having a dependable system of rules provides structure and helps the students stay engaged. And you also need to make sure that you are teaching the expectations at the beginning of the year and enforcing them throughout. And research shows that it increases academic achievement. So some key strategies for creating expectations in the classroom start with actually the school. So it's important to have at least about three positive school-wide expectations, and that just helps get the entire school on the same page, and it can also feed into how you create your expectations in the classroom. And those expectations in the classroom and school-wide should be observable, measurable, positively stated, understandable, and always applicable. And when you're teaching these expectations, you need to make sure that you're using the strategy of using not only examples of what you want, but also examples of what you don't want. So using examples and non-examples when teaching. And one really important strategy when creating the expectations in the classroom is to involve the students in the process so that they feel that they want to follow those expectations more because they feel proud of creating them and obtaining their commitment, whether that's signing a paper, signing a poster, or verbally stating their commitment. So some ways to do this in the elementary classroom is to make sure that once you do make your expectations that you post them somewhere that all the students can see, and that when you regularly refer to them, you can have something to point to. Make sure that when you do make each expectation that you define each one explicitly for the students so that they understand what you mean. And then lastly, make sure that when you are teaching them to the class that you make the lesson engaging. And that will just help the students understand the expectations more. So some things to keep in mind of not to do would be that assuming the students already know the expectation, which obviously they won't, so that's why you have to define each one explicitly. Having more than 5, so you definitely want to make sure you have 5 expectations. If you have any more, they won't be able to listen to all of them and follow all of them. That's just not in their zone of proximal development. That's not best practice. You need to have 5. You want to avoid listing behaviors that you don't want from them. So an example of that would be saying, do not run. And a way to avoid that would be to say, walk. You want to avoid creating ones that you're not always willing to enforce. And as you remember, you want the expectations to always be applicable and always be able to be enforced. So avoid making ones that you aren't going to enforce all the time. And lastly, you want to avoid ignoring the school-wide expectations because then that can lead to ignoring expectations in the classroom.